Cybersecurity. Unit 6. Developing a cybersecurity and risk management plan. Learning outcomes. By the end of this unit, the learner will be able to understand the functions and objectives of risk management, contribute to the development of an effective risk management plan, identify and classify cyber assets in an organizational setting. Developing a cybersecurity and risk management plan. The vast majority of businesses worldwide are dependent on effective and reliable information systems. One of the most important aspects of running an effective information system is the safeguarding of sensitive and confidential data. Irrespective of the size and nature of the organization, its approach to cybersecurity and risk management will have a direct impact on its performance and prosperity. Contrary to popular belief, there is no such thing as an impenetrable or 100% secure IT system. Instead, it is a case of implementing an effective and efficient risk management framework which enables the organization to identify threats, understand the extent to which they could affect their business, and ultimately put measures in place to control these threats accordingly. The following checklist summarizes security best practices and controls that you should consider implementing. This section includes details about the practices. Establishing a risk management framework. Defining the system. It's important to carefully define the system in order to ensure the accuracy of risk assessments and vulnerability assessments, while selecting appropriate controls to adequately meet the organization's cybersecurity goals. It is worth noting that different systems require different levels of protection. Cyber asset identification and classification. There are various assets within the modern organization that could be targeted by criminals. One of the most important steps in the development of a security risk management strategy is the identification of critical cyber assets. Three major asset classifications being as follows. Critical assets. This includes all equipment, systems, and facilities which, if rendered unavailable due to destruction or tampering, would impact the operability and reliability of the wider electronic system. Cyber assets. The term cyber assets encompasses communications networks and electronic devices, including all types of hardware, software, and data. Critical cyber assets. We can therefore say that critical cyber assets are those that play a key role in the operation and reliability of any critical assets. Identifying critical cyber assets. A senior individual within the organization should be designated to analyze, review, and approve a list of identified critical assets and critical cyber assets business-wide on an annual basis. Classifying cyber assets. Consider classifying your cyber assets in the following categories. Public. Public information refers to any data that is available publicly and therefore doesn't need to be protected in any specific way. Restricted. By contrast, restricted information refers to the kind of information you only allow certain authorized or qualifying individuals to access. The reason being that the consequences of the information falling into the wrong hands could be detrimental for your business. A few examples of restricted information include operational procedures, network topology or similar diagrams equipment, layouts of critical cyber assets, floor plans of computing centers that contain critical cyber assets. Confidential. Confidential information must only be disclosed and shared between those with higher level authorization. The performance and/or security of your business could be compromised should information such as the following be accessed without authorization or fall into the wrong hands. Security configuration information, authentication and authorization information, private encryption keys, disaster recovery plans, incident response plans. Personally identifying information P2. Personally identifying information or personally identifiable information as the kind of data that can be used to pinpoint a specific individual. It is the unique data, or combination thereof, that gives away a person's identity, which may include things such as their name, their date of birth, and their social security number, and so on. P2 can be used to locate and/or identify a living person, and therefore can be used to cause harm to the respective individual if and when such data falls into the wrong hands. Every organization is now legally obliged to ensure all personally identifying information collected, stored and used is sufficiently safeguarded from unauthorized access or loss. Identifying the electronic security perimeter, ESP, protecting cyber assets. It is essential to ensure that all critical cyber assets are sufficiently safeguarded by appropriate security protections. Every collection of logical security protections is referred to as an electronic security perimeter, ESP. This border or protective barrier is formed collectively by firewalls, routers, encrypted tunnels, gateways, proxies, and so on, which control and monitor communications on the system's external boundary to detect and prevent attempted unauthorized access. It can be difficult to effectively and thoroughly analyze electronic security perimeters and determine whether or not critical assets are protected sufficiently. Conducting a vulnerability assessment. Cybersecurity experts advise all businesses to carry out an extensive vulnerability assessment of ESP access points on an annual basis. This involves assessing the extent to which an attacker could breach the security perimeter and current security controls in order to access critical cyber assets. The term cyber threat refers to any circumstance or entity that could cause harm to an information system in such a way as to affect the performance and objectives of the organization. Assessing and mitigating risks. Certain types of risk will be identified by way of vulnerability assessments. As previously touched upon, it is just as important to determine both the likelihood of the event occurring and its potential impact as it is to identify the risk in the first place. The extent to which current security controls partially or fully mitigate any risk identified should also be taken into account. After which, you will be in a position to enumerate the gaps in your cybersecurity defenses and make informed decisions accordingly. The objective of a cybersecurity risk management framework is to reduce or minimize threats business-wide. However, it is also important to take into account the cost-effectiveness and general viability of the framework and its component security controls. All organizations must tolerate a certain amount of risk which will belong to one of the three main risk categories: people and policy, process, technology. Assessing impact and risk levels. A risk assessment is only effective when it considers both the potential impact of the scenario in question and the likelihood of it occurring. Potential consequences can be categorized under the following: safety, causing risk to life, health and safety; outage, leading to improper operation of a power system device, possibly resulting in a consumer outage; privacy, disclosing private data such as social security or credit card numbers; monetary, leading to increased tangible costs to the business. Mitigating risks with security controls. Outlined below is a summary of the risk assessment and mitigation process. System characterization. Identify the system's boundaries, resources, and information. Threat identification. List all entities, natural, human, or environmental, with the potential to have a detrimental effect on the functions of the business. Document all potential methods of attack, along with the motivation and capacity of the perpetrator to launch an attack. Vulnerability identification. Carefully consider and document every possible weakness and gap in the current system's management, operational, and technical security controls. Anything that could be used by an attacker to illegally access or cause harm to the system. Risk assessment. Calculate the extent to which the vulnerabilities and threats identified pose a risk to the system. This involves carrying out 4 closely connected tasks. Analyze. The extent to which current security controls are sufficient to prevent the adverse event from taking place or control the potential impact of the event. Estimate. how likely it is the event will take place, high, medium, low, factoring in any current control measures that could reduce its likelihood. Analyze the extent to which the event could cause damage to the system and affect the performance and goals of the business, high, medium, low. Use this information to assign a risk rating to each of the threats identified by combining its potential impact and likelihood of occurring. Control recommendations. This risk rating can then be used to prioritize the threats identified accordingly before selecting and implementing additional controls to reduce their threat or likelihood or eliminate them entirely. Important notes. All types of testing should be performed exclusively by those with extensive skills, knowledge, and understanding of key cybersecurity issues. Not all cybersecurity tests need to be as in-depth and complex as others. Again, this will be for the designated individual or team to decide. Cybersecurity testing should be seen as an ongoing process, forming part of the organization's security and protection framework. Testing must reflect production environments, and the results must be documented. Summary. Having completed this unit, you have learned the following: that there is no such thing as an impenetrable or 100% secure IT system, however robust the safety and security measures may be. The different classifications of cyber assets and what they mean from a cybersecurity perspective. How to conduct a vulnerability assessment and how the process differs from conducting a standard risk assessment.